today's video, I'm going to do auto body work using sheet metal, a hand riveter, fiberglass cloth, and the fiberglass resin that we use to harden the fiberglass. I'm going to do the video a little bit differently because the project is going to be repairing rocker panels. That's what I'm going to do on this vehicle behind us. However, I'm not actually going to promote this as a means of repairing damage on rocker panels. Today's vehicles, there's a lot of structural strength that's involved with the rocker panels. You can Google that and find out what you like. So I'm not, as I say, promoting this as a means of repairing rocker panels. It's just a project I'm having to do. So I'm taking my chances with it. You would be too. But it is a good way to illustrate the use of some of the tools and materials used in doing auto body work. The first part of the video, I'm going to show you the driver's side. I'm going to go relatively quickly through it just so you can have a look and see is this the kind of work maybe I want to do or otherwise. Then we're going to kind of cut to the passenger side rocker panel repair, and then we're going to go step by step, cutting the sheet metal, using the pop-rivet gun, mixing the resin and the fiberglass, the proper portions of resin, and all that type of thing. Along the driver's side of the vehicle, we have some pretty major rocker panel damage in here. I'm going to move the camera up. I'll show you there's some actual holes in there, but this is going to be a different type of a job because we're going to fill this. We're going to cut some material and fill it in, but it doesn't have to be all that great looking because we have the cover that I took off. So that's going to go over the whole thing anyway. So that's a different type of job again. Well, this is the driver's side. I cut this all out with the angle grinder and the cutoff disc. Got as much of the rust off as I can with the wire brush attachment, and now I'm going to take a sanding disc to it. So here's the fiberglass repair. This is tedious, but just the nature of how this repair had to go. What I did was I painted along here with the fiberglass resin and hardener. And then I pressed fiberglass in, and then I had to let it dry, and there's about a 2-hour drying time because if I saturated this and tried to, this gets fairly heavy when it gets saturated with the resin, and it wouldn't have stuck up in here. So once it dried at the top, I then pressed it in and painted the resin along this side, and then stuck that on, and after that dried, then I put another second coat or second layer of the fiberglass, saturated this part here, and then stuck the second layer in. So for my purposes, this is fine. Bear in mind, this wouldn't be strong enough, except for the fact this is just covering over everything and sealing this portion, and the rocker guard panel here is going to go over this whole thing. Now I'm going to paint this with some rubber sealant, what do they call it, asphalt guard or whatever, to cover all that up. So that's it for the driver's side. There's no holes. I didn't bother to videotape myself painting that tar on there. That's it for this side. Put my rocker guards, the plastic ones, back on here, pop it into these holes. Here's our rocker panel damage. Pretty severe down here. Let's see. And I'm going to take a wire brush to this, clean this all off, and then we'll really be able to see what we got. Down there, down that side, not so bad.
towards the front of the vehicle.
So we're going to go back to basics to start this job. The good old wire brush. Make sure you wear gloves, hopefully better ones than I have here. I'm going to put these on and then these over them, because some of those metal shards can be really sharp. And do not even start it unless you have a decent pair of safety glasses.
Stage 1 is done. I've taken the wire brush to the whole area. By the way, there's going to be an upcoming video where I'm going to paint this car, which is why I took the inserts out from underneath the wheel wells and everything. So, basically gone along with the wire brush. At this point, I've cut out all the big old nasty hunks of rotted rocker panel. I had to cut off certain ends of it with the wire snips there. I'm just going to take the wire brush to it again, get anything obvious out of there, scrape it off. Then I'm going to take the angle grinder, smooth it down. I cut out all the old rotten rocker. I've sanded here with sanding discs and wire brushes, and this qualifies for me as good enough.
What I've got here is a 2-foot by 3-foot piece of sheet metal, specifically made for body repair. This cost me $38. And as you can see, I'm starting to cut it into strips here, 3 inches wide, and we're going to put that along the where we cut out the rotted part of the rocker panels, and we're going to rivet it in on the top, and we'll use some fiberglass on the bottom to keep it in place.
So all I'm doing here is riveting that sheet metal that we looked at before into place. There's one of the rivets here. Make sure you have your safety glasses on. So I was doing this and the drill bit broke on me. It went flying and literally bounced off my safety glasses. I have a video on how to use a pop-rivet gun. I will put a link to it at the bottom of this video. Get our rivet gun here. Hopefully this is going to come out on the camera. Just going to take a little pressure on the gun here. That should keep the rivet in place like that. Oops, I think I have the wrong size rivet. One moment. Okay. Rather than go get another rivet, I just widened out that hole a little bit there, so this one will go in. Again, a little pressure on the gun. So this will keep that sheet metal in place while we do our fiberglass work. There we go. So now we've got about a half a dozen rivets in this piece of sheet metal here. That's good and solid. We'll go on to our next step. Well, I'll put another piece up there and then we'll do the fiberglass work. Here's our fiberglass cloth laid out. Approximately $40 Canadian. Little package says what, 3.04 square meters. So we'll be able to get a fair bit of body work done with this volume. Cutting fiberglass cloth is pretty simple. You lay out the width that we want. In this case, we're going to go a little wider than we actually need for the rocker panels because it's easy to cut the excess afterwards. I'll show you that. Anyways, you can just cut this with a box cutter. So, since the last time I ended up with all that wastage, I'm going to cut the amount we mix in half. So with all the waste, I did 60 milliliters. So we're going to mix up 30 milliliters of this resin, which should be 10 drops of hardner. 30 milliliters, if my calculations are correct, is also 1 ounce. So 1 ounce of resin, 10 drops of hardner. My other little challenge here is you got to have a respirator for this. This stuff is powerful. You'll see what I mean if you go to use it. So we're going to mix it, then I'm going to put on my respirator, then I'm going to move the camera over and we'll apply it. And hopefully that'll all come out well. For this little part, even though I shouldn't, I'm not going to use a respirator because you wouldn't be able to hear me talk. So we're going to half fill our 60 milliliter cup. Oh, this is coming out. I would say that's about half full. Approximately half of what I used last time. Also, unless you want to throw your brushes away after you're done, you got to clean this with acetone or something like that. Gas does not work. I know because I tried it. Gas is cheap, well, at least cheap compared to acetone, and it did not clean the brush. Brushes were as hard as rocks. But I tried the acetone does work. Okay, so here's the hardner. Sorry, here's the resin. Now, take your little container of hardner that was included with the resin, and we're trying to use this sparingly because the stuff is expensive. I think it was like $23 for that little can there of resin. The hardner's included. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this is where supposedly 12 minutes comes into play. It's a pretty fast 12 minutes. And I mix this up. And I can smell this getting really powerful, so respirator is going to go on. And then I'm going to move the camera over. And hopefully the application will come out good on the camera. Here's the product I'm going to use for the here's the undercoating product I'm going to use to paint over those rocker panels. Again, not sponsored. This is just the stuff I'm going to use, and you'll see how thick that is. You can see why it says to stir it good. I'm going to put this on with a brush. If you have an old brush that's kind of stiff because it didn't really get cleaned too well the last time, great time to use it, because look how thick that stuff is. Here's the black asphalt undercoating. I want to apply that now so it'll dry overnight. I'm going to go down the whole rocker panel and right down to this edge here. I'm going to stop up at this corner because I got to do some different types of body work and repair this wheel well. That's going to be a different video. Anyway, I'll put this on and give you a look at that in the morning. It's the next day. Rocker guard has all dried. So that's it for this job. I'm not going to put the plastic panels on now because I got some body work I mentioned over in the other end to do. So I'll put it back all together when I'm completely finished. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.